Alright, looks like we're live. Okay, let's see what we got today. Intel Arc Graphics launching October 12th for $329. What is this? CPUs, flagships, 2. Intel's Arc 8. Oh, dang. Justin's fast to join. What's up? Intel's Arc will be running at 2.1 gigahertz October 12th. 32 cores. Is this a server CPU? What the heck? This is like a server CPU. Oh, it's a GPU. It's GPU. Interesting. We're light and rather limited. Okay, interesting. Honestly, I don't know too much about GPUs other than like the technical specifics of them. I do know what they're used for, like it's for the fucking computers, but I know people use it for like Bitcoin mining. I think people have definitely soured on things like Nvidia since Bitcoin's crashed. I'd venture a bet that this is like a nothing burger for Intel. Although I actually wait, I didn't even know Intel actually made graphics cards to begin with. I was Yeah, I jumped out of bed once you saw the notification. All right. Yeah, glad to have you, man. Let's see what else we got. Yeah, I'm not. I don't think that it's going to change much for Intel. Just having the graphics card out. It hurts to ask. Lyft freezes all U.S. hiring amid stock slump. Yeah, we saw that coming. It hurts to ask. What the heck does that mean? Offering, asking, and granting help in a three stages. Bilateral private information between person and home. Yeah. Asking entails the risk of rejection painful since unawareness of the need can no longer be excused. A refusal reveals that the person in need or relationship is not valued much. We show that a failure to ask can occur even when most helpers would help if told about the need, and that can occur. And that even though a greater need makes help more valuable and more likely to be granted, it can reduce the prosperity. Wait, what? We show that a failure to ask can occur even when most helpers would help. Okay, and that even though a greater need makes help more valuable, okay, so the more valuable the help, the less likely it's actually asked. Yep. Okay. Furthermore, when potential helpers concerned about the recipient's ask shyness can make spontaneous offers, turns out to be a double-edged sword. Offering reveals a more caring type and helps solve the failure to ask problem, but not offering reveals a not so caring one, and this itself deters asking. This discouragement effect can also generate a trap where those in need wait for an offer while potential helpers wait for an ask, resulting in significant inefficiencies. Okay, so in plain language, this means that people who need help don't ask for help, and that the people who extend help should probably do so. I think that's pretty much what the abstract says, which kind of makes sense. But did you really need the entire study to do that? I don't know. I might read this on my own time, but honestly, when it comes to academic papers, I just cannot read them. I have to, and this is 56 pages. I read a lot. I suck at reading these technical papers, so I'm not gonna read it. But it's in the abstract's kind of interesting. Although to be fair, I probably should spend more time reading technical white papers. I mean, I'll read engineering papers for sure, but for like psychology papers like this, what the heck is this? So, okay, this is just your typical decision tree and stuff. You saw how I had to basically read the abstract twice just to read in plain English what the heck is going on. So, I'm not a fan of doing that, to be honest. I mean, I'll do it if I think the payoff is good, but the abstract seems kind of obvious to me, so I'm gonna pass on reading it for now. GitHub breaks homebrew in Git action with only 5 days notice. Oh, Jesus Christ! 5 days notice. Probably give him a month, please. Penpot raises 8 million in funding. Oh dear. Yeah, I don't know. It's a little bit of a slow news day, I think. Oosh. Anthony Bourdain's text. I hate my fans. I hate being famous. I hate my job. Yee. Yikes. Which includes the first times text messages from the daily up to his suicide in 2018, anguish over his career, estranged marriage, and his troubled romantic relationship. Okay. Yikes. I am lonely and living in constant uncertainty. I feel like that's, for what it's worth, Macro's GitHub actions are insanely expensive. Okay, let's go back to this. Although this is a very interesting article as well about the nature of fame, which kind of makes sense. You kind of, if I would assume that if you look at these texts, I think you imagine where Kanye's coming from as well, like the heavy price of fame and shit. So let's see. Let's actually look at the GitHub Actions one since you brought it up in the chat. Let's see, GitHub. Let's see, GitHub Actions. Wait, where'd it go? Like GitHub Actions 30. Okay, like automate your workflow of GitHub. Yeah, this is the CI thing. I know what's called Google uses this as like a hook for doing this, but I actually don't know what the pricing is. Let's see, GitHub Actions, homebrew. Let me. Okay, here we go. Let's see what it actually says. Breaking changes. Homebrew will be removed from path on Ubuntu images. Interesting. And target deployment 22nd. Okay, starting with Homebrew 6.0, GCC and its tool chains became mandatory dependencies for any install packages. We're going to remove Homebrew from the path variable so it does not conflict with canonically provided software and tool chains. Okay, so it looks like they're saying publicly it's like a dependency issue. If your project depends on Homebrew, your build will be broken. Interesting. Let's see what the discussion says. Okay, invoke shell to make brew available during running session, or add Homebrew to the path variable manually. Oh, I assumed brew for Mac, but I forgot you can install the package manager on Linux as well. Wait, does Homebrew actually exist on Linux? Because I always use like apt-get or something like that. I didn't know brew was available for Linux, but damn. But yeah, I guess so. I guess according to this. So it looks like, hey, they're gonna remove it, but you can add Homebrew to the path if you really wanted to. Oosh. What the heck is these downvotes? Yikes. They're probably saying that Homebrew Homebrew doesn't actually. Does Homebrew? Okay, Homebrew explicitly requires these, I guess. Let's see what people say in the comment. Enormous breakage, enormous number of repositories, and oddly to this point, intermittent. That's true. Yeah. I think it's just gonna be it is a big headache when it comes to this. Is basically classified as an infrastructure change, and when you make these wide-breaking changes, it comes with a lot of consequences. In this case, not having Homebrew available for a lot of these images will probably break a lot of GitHub action builds. Let's see. Ooh, strange approach. Let's break images that used by probably 95% of GitHub actions. When was the announcement made? This changes. Unreliable. Yikes. Okay, and then everyone seems. Let's take this diff commit. Okay. So in these GitHub actions, they're adding all the mitigations. Oof. I don't use. This is really responsible to do with no notice at all. It's just how quick it was. September 23rd. Reactive approach. This policy breaks the commitment made in that promises announcing breaking changes 1 month in advance. This suggestion does not work. But for the life of me, I cannot get T. The problem is that there's no way for it to change runs on just to use the previous version of the runner. Interesting. Okay. without knowing too much, I'm guessing it's just with infrastructure changes, they have to be announced way, way, way ahead of time. Especially when you basically have when so many packages like and when all of GitHub, let's say, or some percentage of GitHub that uses GitHub Actions rely on some infrastructure change, you have to broadcast it and you have to have obviously some forcing function to get people off of it. But then this is a little bit extreme. Maybe I'm missing some context here. What is the motivation for making the announcement and forcing it to be only 4 days instead of a month? There has to be something. No one does this. Okay, GitHub chooses to include a huge amount of software by default in their runners. Right. If you include it, then you should assume that people will eventually will depend on it. And removing it is painful. I think I learned that the hard way in Android world, where if you give an app permission, you should always assume that developers in that who are working on that app will assume that that permission will always be there. And it's just kind of like more or less the same way. The moment you revoke that permission is the moment you break everything. So this is interesting. Yeah. At least that's my 2 cents on it. The ops guy's on vacation, then GG. Yeah. All right. Let's bring my client on and let's see what's up. Please wait for the host to start the meeting. I am the meeting. I am the host. What the heck? Okay. Well, Zoom auto log out now. Whatever. All right, let's see. Is he gonna join? Here we go. Sweet.
Hello?
Hey, hello.
Hey, Edward, how's it going?
Hey, doing good. How about yourself?
Good.
Cool. Yeah, catch me up on practice. How did it go over the weekend?
It went well. The ELI 5 before jumping into pseudocode did help.
Good.
I redid one of the problems we did on the stream. I think it was the shortest string with all the required words.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that definitely helped. With the system design, I've been going over all the problems and trying to see the common mistakes and writing those down as like a top priority. Not as my checklist, but like just to make sure I have something to always look back, just so I don't repeat the same mistakes. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Our goal here is to basically keep iterating over and over again until our approach is bulletproof and we don't make the same mistakes twice. That's basically what we want to do here, right? Mm-hmm. So it sounds like you got that. And I also know that based on what I wrote in the practice diary, a big theme was being able to bulletproof our approach and ideas and to be able to make our testing much better. How has that gone?
That has gone well. I did try like the greedy chapter on EPI. Mm-hmm. I did notice that like the first is like for greedy and the rest are problems that can't be solved in the greedy approach. Mm-hmm. So I didn't read that after doing some of these problems. So that kind of fell through the cracks. And also with the system design, I did the Yelp problem. That went well. But then when I got to Uber, or the Uber one, I kind of missed the idea where throw 1 million users at this data structure that's going to maintain everyone's locations since it's constantly moving. So what can go wrong? So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. So remember, it's the scaling out problem. What happens if you throw a bunch of users at the problem? What happens? That's one of the tests that we use, right? And I think I've talked about that before, like the Kanye effect. Like, well, I call it the Kanye effect because it's so easy for me to like think of it like that. That's my heuristic. Yeah. Although you might think of it like the Miley Cyrus effect or whatever have you. Whatever helps you think about it. But yeah. Anyway, so it seems like you're able to identify your mistakes. The question now just becomes, what can I do to not repeat them? That's it. Okay.
Okay.
So,
Uh,
did your checklist change since last time? Did you streamline it,
uh,
add more stuff? How'd that go?
let's see. Yeah, so for the DSA, I did change some steps on it. Not a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I found something really interesting over the weekend. It's like, okay, how can you visualize this problem with like a XY chart, right? Um, because I did the problem, it's like the gas up problem. So my initial assumption since it was it was in the greedy chapter. So I said, okay, let's grab the gas station with the most gas,
Okay.
and then if that doesn't work, go to the next gas station.
Oh, okay.
But this wasn't a greedy problem. They even said it in the solution. So what they do is they talk about drawing out this problem in a XYZ chart, and you look at the lowest point where you go negative with gas, and you start there, and starting there, you'll be able to go all the way around. So,
Interesting. Okay, I'm going to tell you that heuristic is interesting. It's a one-off.
Okay.
It's like I said, it's a good tool, but I think that if we went into battle with only like a handful of tools, this is not one I would carry.
Okay.
I would say try just the raw, clean approach this. And if I remember that problem correctly, the raw, clean approach would have been to try to complete the cycle from every single point or something like that.
Correct. Okay.
Right. That at least that's I would have gone with that very, very naive approach. And I don't see a way of how to. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty much the same thing, right? You don't get to plot the points until you actually. No. I see what they mean. It's I can see why they come up with it. Actually, the more I think about it, but it's like that's not something I would expect anyone to come up with. That I think it's one of those like math problems. Again, if you understand how they derive it, that's great.
Yeah.
But this is not something I would want to. I would fuss over like, oh, how can I figure this out in the future?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It was that problem, and it was also like another problem in that chapter was the skyline problem. You want to form a rectangle, so that was another one of the problems that was hard. I only came up with a brute force solution. So.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. If it's too difficult, there are some problems that are too difficult, other problems that aren't. But as long as you acknowledge like what's the inefficiency, but then you can't get to it, I think most interviewers might lend you a hand in situations like that. But in like the first case, the gas problem, right, is the fact that you're constantly traveling over the same number of stops over and over again. But then the only way to do that would have been to do it in one pass, and then you would have done one pass, and then it would have been luck for you to try and figure out, hey, if you just start from the lowest point. I think that's the only way you could have done it, is that you just YOLO it based on, you're basically forced into it, right, because of the law of inefficiency, but then it's just like, okay, well, you would have to just wander into it. That's how I see those problems. But other than that, as long as you can get to that point, then I think you're fine.
Okay, cool. So and also, I had a question with the system design, because I was looking at the rubric that they grade you with, and this is for Amazon specifically. They said to tie it into something that you've done in the past, but for some of these problems, it's not always going to be the case, right? Like, because there was a checklist and how they grade the candidates, and it says, okay, can they tie this to something they've done in the past?
Yeah, I always try to tell people to do that.
Okay.
Actually, if you want, so what I want to do today, there's a few things I want to do today, actually. So first, I obviously want to check your homework, right? And just make sure that, hey, you're grading yourself properly for these mistakes. I do want to do a problem, but I also want to gauge, like, how you are with, like, the practice as well. Like, have you been sticking with the schedule?
Yeah, I've been sticking to the schedule.
How are you feeling? Like, are you feeling burnt out or anything close to that?
Yeah, I'm kind of getting there.
Okay.
Yeah, I had to take some breaks within the day, but yeah. It's getting.
Yeah, this is usually around the time week 5, week 6, usually when people will start starting to hurt a little bit.
Yeah.
So we can take it a week early. We can start today, but I want to make sure that we do that. So the first hour, let's do a problem together. Let's look at mistakes, do a problem together, and the second half, we're gonna do some behavioral interview prep. We're going to look at some stuff. And then for the rest of the week, since you put Amazon 9:30, I want you to kind of just split your time half between some problems, half between what we talk about today for the behavioral interview, okay?
Okay, okay.
Cool.
Problems, you mean both system design and DSA?
No, if I did both, then we'd take up the full 2 hours. What I want to do is I want to focus on your DSA, because that's what you.
But for the homework, sorry for the.
Oh yeah, the homework. I'll look at one DS. I'll look at a few DSA and a few system design. That's it.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay,
Sounds
so
good.
let's look at your diary. Okay, so tell me like one or two problems that you feel like you could have that you felt like you struggled with, and actually let's do this. One problem that you felt like you struggled with, one problem you felt like you did well on.
Okay. The struggle, the one that I struggled, it was the find majority element, 152, row 152.
Okay, find majority element. ELI. Let's see this one. ELI 5. The idea is to make a pass over the string and count the characters. We maintain count in counter. At the end, we will return the character with. Okay, I'm not actually familiar. I don't remember this problem actually. So let me go ahead and open up the elements of programming interview.
Yeah, so with this one, I said, okay, if I would have visualized this in XY, that would have probably made more sense to me.
Okay.
But I couldn't think of an approach because I was thinking, okay, what if I do like the XOR approach, right? But that would be like the same as a counter, so or a bitmap, sorry.
Okay, wait, let me read this first and then let me look. Okay, several applications require identification of elements in a sequence which occurs more than a specific fraction of the total number of elements in the sequence. For example, we may want to identify the user using excessive network bandwidth or blah blah blah. You are reading a sequence of strings. You know that more than half of the strings are repetitions of a single string, the majority element, but the positions where the majority element occurs are unknown. Write a program that makes a single pass over the sequence that identifies the majority element. For example, the input is B, A, C, A, da 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 da, then A is the majority element. Okay, so you're given that there is an element that occurs more than half of the time on the string. Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see, ELI 5. The idea is to make a pass over string and count the characters. Yes, remain the character. So we are basically talking about a frequency map. At the end, return the character with the highest frequency map. Did not derive the optimal solution. 1. Did you derive... Okay. Reduce time, space, complexity? Yes. So in this case, the inefficiency here is that as you scan, you're maintaining memory, and you need to... Yeah, you're basically maintaining memory, and then also you do another pass over the map as well to try and find the highest count. So that's right. What's next? Yeah, visualize what this looks like. An XY graph. Oh, this is the XY graph you're talking about. Okay.
This one and the gas up one. So yeah, this one.
Both of them use the XY graph. Interesting.
Oh, not this one, but this one. I said to myself, okay, if I would have thought about it that way, maybe I could have derived the solution. Because the intuition behind that is like, since you're giving that a character has more than half, if you scale that out in a graph, it's going to keep going up and down. And then if you encounter a different type of character, you subtract that sum. So the number that stays at the end, that's going to be the most frequent one.
Wait, I didn't quite understand that. Repeat it.
So if you scan your array or your string,
okay.
You're given that a character has more than half, right? So, yeah. So what happens is you can count, for example, how many times A appears. If it appears sequentially, you increment the count, right? But if you find a character of a different of a different content like B, you subtract the A count. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, so you basically separate it into A and not A.
Correct.
And then for every single letter, you basically do that.
Mm-hmm,
Doesn't that increase your runtime though?
The book said that no, because you're just keeping like a variable.
No, it decreased your space for sure, but I'm saying your runtime.
Oh yeah. Well,
because
you would.
Because I'm saying because the way you described it, I'm thinking you scan the elements. You scan the string for all unique characters, right? And for every single character, you count the character and not character using the method you just described.
What the key does is they do it. How do you say it? They do it on the fly.
Oh, okay, I see. So let's say you encounter A, and then you increment the number of A's, right? And then you encounter a B, you subtract one from you could subtract one from A and then increase the B by one.
No, it would just like if you have five A's and then you see a B, the A count would go down to 4.
Right, but then what about B? Don't you have to repeat the whole process for B?
I don't think so. Because it's given that a character appears more than half in the array.
Okay.
So it would eventually show up at the end. This is a really
that does not make sense. The way you described does not make sense.
Okay.
Let me read the book. I don't believe that's the right solution because let's suppose I have A, B, C, right? How could you tell? I have like let's say 3 A's, right, and then 4 B's. You know, but B could be B C B C B C B C. So how could you tell it was going to be B? How can you tell it's B or A? Or,
right.
That's what I'm saying. Okay. Random sampling is not good. Intuitive or better algorithm. We can group entries into 2 subgroups. Those contain majority elements and those do not hold the majority element. Yes. Okay. Search. Okay. By discarding both the majority of the right. We have a candidate for the majority element and track its count. It is initialized the first entry. What the fuck? Okay, so we have a candidate for the majority element and track its count. It is initialized to the first entry. We iterate through the remaining entries. Each time we see an entry equal to the candidate, we increment the count. Okay, sure. We decrement the count. If the count becomes 0, we set the next entry to be the candidate. Okay. Mathematical. Oh, okay. I think I understand what is happening here. Okay. Yeah, but then how would you know it's not BC, BC, BC? Oh, I see. Okay, no, I get it. This is so weird. This is a fucking math trick. I get it.
Freaking problem, man. Yeah, man. Oh.
It's like you would have to basically ram your head through the wall with this. If you divide it, the only intuition that you could get from here would be A and not A. And then from there on, it's just like, okay, well, you repeat that for B and not B, and then what is inefficient here is that you're trying every single character. So how can you do this doing one pass instead of looping through every single character over and over and over again? This is the only, this is not intuitive at all.
No.
I don't.
Okay,
again,
good to know, man.
This is like a math. This is math bullshit.
Okay, yeah.
If you get to these problems, if you're getting to these problems, I would say just like go on to like another chapter. Again, we don't. This entire chapter 18 is all math bullshit. The fuck?
Yeah. I saw let me see. And because you posted the schedule, right? And then you said this was for another one of your clients. Yep. I saw the greedy there, so that's why I decided to take a stab at this one.
Okay, yeah, I think the only one that would be useful here is the compute maximum water trapped by vertical lines. That one is a good one.
Okay.
And then 18.8, largest rectangle under the skyline. That's a good one. Yeah.
That's the one I failed.
Right. I want you to get to like all the other data structure and algorithm ones. So
okay.
So based on what I just saw in your diary. Yeah, Greedy really loves using some math bullshit. That's fucking stuff. So I really want you to focus on like the fundamentals, like stack seeds, linked lists, and being able to think logically through a lot of these problems that might require a combination of data structure, like different data structures as well. I want you to get the problems that don't require math bullshit.
Okay.
So maybe some of the honor classes might be up your alley. Which chapters have you done again?
I did the heap chapter. Array strings. Let me see what else.
Okay.
Since and the binary tree and the binary search trees.
And you did recursion as well.
Trees.
You should have done linked lists as well, I think.
Oh yeah, that one we did too. This was when you first did the schedule. The string, recursion, and the linked list one.
Okay. Yeah. So that pretty much covers the bases. I would say go back to the searching might be one you need to do. Sorting.
Okay.
And dynamic programming. Yeah, we haven't talked too much about that, have we?
Okay. For that one, do you want me to do the chapter here or do the grokking?
Start with the grokking. So let's see. For DP, actually DP takes a while. So
Yeah, yeah.
you're gonna learn that one very quickly. So probably grokking is the best one to do.
Okay, okay.
But basically, I'm gonna do a very quick run through for dynamic programming for you, and I'm gonna do it in notes. Basically, you start off with like a decision tree, right? It's either it's like think of the packing problem. Start with you pick ABC, tool ABC of particular weight, right? And then based on each decision tree, you're going to be able to cache some of the paths. And so based on caching some of the paths, you can prune some of the roots and paths in the tree, and then that becomes the dimension by which you scale for dynamic programming. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. I think you might have heard me talk about it before, but I'm going kind of quickly for the sake of time. But that's the main intuition. So first one, do the recursive solution pack. Let's see, create the decision tree to pack the problem. 2, what caching can you do of the paths? So this is aka you're pruning.
Okay.
And so that cache becomes your state, and the paths become the dimension you can scale across your x and y in your 2D array or 1D array. That's the intuition behind it. So,
okay, number 3, that's the bottom up then?
Yeah. So you have the top down, which is a recursive solution. You start pruning, and then you do the bottom up, which is the dynamic programming. So the first 2 is meant to give you a sense of like how do you want to record the states, and what state do you want to rely on. That's it.
Okay. Yeah, before I started the coaching, I went over that the first 3 or 4 chapters.
Yeah.
And EPI as well. So yeah, I'll review this for sure. So.
Yeah. But again, I want you to take it a little bit light because I know you're on the verge of burning out, and then we have the Amazon interview on 9:30. So that's like 3 days away, which is Friday, right?
Friday, yeah.
Cool. Okay, cool. So let me see your system design. Is it in the sheet?
Yeah, it's tab 4.
Okay, which row do you want me to look at? I can't really, honestly, I can't say too much about Uber. That's a problem. I work there.
Yeah. Let me see. The Yelp one, the row 18.
Okay, you want me to look at the Yelp one?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that. So you said you missed all users as a feedback for yourself, right?
That was for the Uber one because it requires constant updates.
Okay, so let me let me pull out the grokking one. But go ahead.
Yeah, because my thinking there was like, okay, you have this tree where you represent everyone's locations. The trees have nodes connected to the neighboring trees, but that doesn't work. Because it's constant updates, right? And this tree wasn't meant to support constant updates, as they say in the solution. So.
That's interesting. Okay, so hold up. Let me log in so I get the book, so I can get the answer in front of me, just so I can make sure. What the heck? Oh my god. Give me a second. I really hate how they keep kicking me out of my shit.
Yeah, when I go to create a new one, it has old data there, so I'm always afraid that it can erase all the stuff. So
right.
I have to open another browser. So.
All right, hold up. God damn it. Let me log in again. No, fuck this captcha, man. Jesus. Not a bot. Whatever. Fuck it. I'm just gonna assume that. God. Yeah, sorry about that. Give me a second. Shit.
No problem.
Why did it just fucking kicked me out? Didn't accept my login.
Do you want me to send you the link? I don't think
Yeah,
you have
yeah.
to
Just
log.
send me the link or like a print or something of the um of the solution. Yeah, I just want to take a look at it.
Okay, yeah, I Zoom chat. Yeah, I sent it on Zoom chat.
Okay, okay. Let's see. Okay. Wait. Do you have the actual Yelp solution though? From.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Can you send me the Yelp solution from the grokking book or
Yeah.
not grokking book but the course? In the meantime, I'll look at this. So, okay, functional requirements. User can search for new better places, add reviews, can view reviews. Yes, photos nice to have. Yes, add reviews. Okay, fine. See hours, location, info, contact info for businesses. I might. Okay, add reviews. Like, oh, that's fine.
You said you wanted the link or a
Yeah, just
screenshot of it?
Can you? Do you have the? You're logged into to grokking, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Can you? How about this? Screen share the solution with me.
Okay. It says disable participant screen sharing.
Oh, okay. Let me give you permission. Oops. Security. There you go.
Okay, let's try that. Let's see. Okay.
Cool. Okay.
So do you want me to go to the chart or?
Yep. Let's see. So you functional add deleted places. Yeah, given their location. Wait, does it give me power to control your computer?
Let me see. Yeah, then remote control.
Oh, great! It gives me remote control. Sweet.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Perfect. This is Thank you. Okay.
Yep.
So functional requirements, non-functional requirements. Great. User should be able to add, update. Yeah, find places, latitude, longitude, matches up to search many other places. Okay. A little bit lost detail with the latitude, longitude because it might also be by what's it called city as well, but this is fine. Heavy search load, minimum latency. Yep. You pick highly available, use CP, given that users will get pissed off if they see outdated information. Okay, sure.
Like a phone number or an address.
Right, but the question is that what delay are we willing to accept?
Oh, okay,
That's the
yeah.
thing. Like they might get pissed off if it's like outdated by a year, but if it's outdated by like 2 minutes, then I think most users won't care.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Then the argument would be to choose IP for that case.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So I would bet that Yelp does this. I bet the solution does the same thing here. Let me see.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Well, let's take a look. Oh, so database schema, calculations, blah, 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 location review text rating. Okay, so then you decide business is seeing 500 bytes. So you do like 101 read rate, write ratio, fine. 200 million. Okay, these are choke points will be throughputs and handle our requests per second constantly running. Reasonable, what's the most important thing? Showing user business info and rating info. Okay, so you tag throughput being like one of the most, what's it called? The biggest thing to talk. I think that's pretty reasonable. System design, so looks like how they talk about. Okay, so they talk about the data itself first. I don't know why. Okay, so cram database, sure. So you shard. So your businesses and reviews, right? So they shard by business category, contact review. This is fine. Yeah, because that's location, latitude, longitude, block it. Okay, so you talk about you add a block index. Actually, that's interesting. What can draw piss users off? This is crammed in one database. What is this block index actually? I'm super curious. Did you come up with this, or was this something you added after the fact?
No. This is pointing to the block index that. So this lat and long is gonna point to a specific block index, or index is probably the wrong term there.
Okay.
It should point to a block, and then that block it's gonna have all the surrounding businesses in that vicinity, 5-10 miles, etc.
Okay. Interesting. So, how's all the businesses in the 5-10 miles? Okay, so you basically stole this from like the if you divided up the world into a grid.
Mm-hmm.
I see what you did here. That's
that.
What?
That logic was I remember seeing this problem from a while ago, so I just took that idea and ran with it.
Okay.
The index, the subgrids, etc.
Okay, I see. Um, yeah, so this kind of like comes from the memorized solution, but I would say that if you bring this, if I'm looking at this from outside, right, the block index immediately stands out to me as a, hey, what the fuck is this? You might need to write down what it is, but so far, okay, now they explain it to me, that's fine. You get a grid service, index builder. Okay, so you take a bunch of businesses, you start indexing them by grid, and they have some grid service that can check that, that's fine. And then when you want to search for a latitude, longitude, you pick a grid, gets the index, and you pick the X number of elements around in that grid. Perfectly fine. That's perfectly reasonable. Okay. So the next, so let's see. Since we're taking the latitude and doing approximation radius, this is inefficient. That's fine. We need a better way to search for businesses in the. Interesting. So you say actually that you think that as we scale out, the accuracy becomes the problem. That's kind of what you're implying here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I would say it's like because if you do like a math formula, right, to find like a square, right, that's gonna be too inefficient on your database, and you're gonna have millions of businesses.
Okay. All right. Okay, so we split a grid. We split 4x4 using being grid. Okay, I see. I mean, they also they talk about a quad tree in the answer actually.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of something that caught my eye, but okay, each grid. Okay, each grid will have each business that we index for fast searching. You can argue this from popularity, yeah, like the most popular restaurants you want to promote anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's fine. As long as I think you might want to give that reasoning explicitly, but I think that's probably why you were coming up with this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the users can apply all those various search filters that you see on these websites.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, and then you would basically be able to do a last in first, no, first in first out for the casting policy, or LRU. Sorry, LRU. Okay, so then now you're right. You go most important part grid. Okay, yeah. So now that you have this, I think you this. I'm looking at your red mark. Is this the ones that you missed out on?
Yeah, this is the after the fact. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the solution definitely goes into like the grid as well, like quite a bit actually.
Yeah, like how much space is gonna take? How are you gonna connect neighboring nodes, etc.
Okay, but then they also talk about like sharding as well because these you can't have like one big grid, right? Okay. Yeah, so the next thing would be all right. So now that you have come with the quad tree structure, how do you want to store it in database? Well, store it. They say, oh, you can just search by SQL, right? So, and you just search latitude, longitude, ranges, and then have the SQL database keyed and ordered by that. That's fine. But then how do you shard it? Because when you're gonna have a shit ton of businesses, right? So it can't all live on one database. So this is where I think I think you might have missed that if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I did.
Not to mention, you also like say your highest, what's called your problem actually you mentioned was throughput. I see that you kind of address it with the database, right? Because then you have very fast queries, which then you can service, and that's fine. But then then becomes like, well, what happens to the database after that? Because now that you focus on the database, what happens if you scale out that database?
Yeah, or the grid itself, right, where we store all these businesses.
Right, and then you also have replication as well. I think they actually go very heavy in this scenario. They actually go very heavy on the database, actually, not the throughput.
Yeah,
which is interesting.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I think for this it's different authors. I'm assuming for this, because
Right.
Yeah.
So So if I were to look at the mistake and judge it myself, I would say basically, okay, I might have called the throughput wasn't necessarily wrong. I think the interviewer might have guided you to saying, hey, let's focus a little bit more on the database.
Okay.
But if it is the throughput, then I would have started saying, oh, all application servers are homogeneous. and then we all access the same, the quad tree, and then we start putting load balancers in front of them. That might be something you want to start thinking about because again, you set that you set the agenda of hey, we want to focus on throughput, but I didn't really see too much discussion of throughput here.
Okay.
That's the thing. Like when you make these declarations, you're scoping out and saying, hey, this is what we need to focus on. But I don't see that in your discussion here. So so it kind of says to me, hey, well, you called the what's called the focus in the beginning wrong. So that's what it's telling me. But if you can make that transition where you say, okay, with 333 searches, we can make very fast queries at the choke point of the database, and then you put load balancers in front. Then eventually the next thing that comes up would be, okay, well, what happens when the number of businesses that is added grows. So I think if you handled that first, based on what your discussion, if you believed that was your problem, then you should eventually say, what's the next thing that can go wrong? And then that would have led you to the database. I think that's what I'm seeing here. So I would say follow your own discussion and try to push that, and then ask the follow-up. And then eventually the road will lead to Rome. That's at least, I think, the takeaway here.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so I guess for practice, what I'll do is I'll start in one little box here, and then I'll move in. I'll basically, it's like expanding, right?
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense.
It's like start with a small problem, focus on the problem area that you think is going to go wrong, and then once that gets optimized, think of the next thing that goes wrong. Or if you can't think of anything that goes wrong at that scale, scale it up.
Okay.
And then eventually you will get there. So I think that coming up with load balancer and homogeneous servers at first is not a bad idea, because you think about, like, let's say we start small from Yelp, right? We start with all restaurants in San Francisco. And our population would be all the people who go to San Francisco and visit San Francisco. A lot more people than there are businesses. So the query is not actually it's not entirely wrong. But then after that, when you scale up, then the number of businesses definitely does scale a little bit harder than people. Because if you start scaling out your service and you start hitting things like Omaha, there's probably like a lot more businesses than people. The ratio kind of gets flipped a little bit in like rural areas. At least I would imagine. Yeah. At least that's my sense of it. But that's again, it's a little bit of a tail thing. But if you try to scale up a little bit more, I think you will, and keep asking yourself the inefficiency question, you'll get there. So other than that, I think it's a little hard for me to judge your efficacy on this problem, because you came up with like solutions that you said you've seen before. So it's all I'm doing here is just trying to evaluate whether or not your approach was solid or not. So
Yeah.
That's fine.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So with that, let's actually do a quick problem here before we go to talk about the behavioral interview.
Okay.
So let me go to the problem sheet. Okay, so ISC problem. Okay, so I have your problem sheet here. Let me see that. Let me pull up a problem then. What problem have I not given you? Okay, this one should be relatively fast. Oh, I can give you a hard problem now. Sure. You should be able to handle these. If you're doing it right, so let's take a look. All right, so let me start the timer. It's a little bit of a long one, but I'll read it out for you. So we're going to do the optimal account balancing problem. So you're given an array of transactions where the transaction in the array is going to be equal to the amount of money going from a person to a person and the amount. So these from and to represent IDs. And so I want you to return the minimum number of transactions required to settle the debt. So what do I mean by this? Let's look at two examples, right? The first one, I suppose I have like this transaction where person 0 gives person 1 $10. Person 2 gives person 0 $5. Well, in order to settle the debts, you need to, one way that you can settle the debt is person 1 pays person 0 and 2 $5 each. So you need two transactions. And so the answer in this case would be just be 2, right? Because that's the smallest number of transactions needed to settle the debt. Does that make sense?
Okay, so the second person, okay, yeah. Because they only have to pay them the $5, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And if they pay the $5, then all's gravy. So, with that, I want you to find an algorithm that will return the minimum number of transactions required to settle the debt. The floor is yours.
Okay, so from to, okay, amount, okay, okay, so return the minimum number of transactions to settle debt. Looking at the first example, that's self-explanatory. Let me look at the second example. Person 0 gave 1 $10. Person 1 gave 0 $1. Okay. Okay, therefore person 1 only has to pay $4. Okay, so 0 to 1, they do $10. That's all. Okay, that's only one I see there. 1 to 0. 1 to 0, they give them $1. Okay, so person 0 gives them person 1 $10. Person 1 gave person 0 $1. Person 1 gave person 2 $5. And then in the fourth line, it says person 2 gave person 0 $5. Therefore, person 1 only needs to give person, debt is settled. So, okay, so let me draw out this example just to clear this up in my head.
Okay, sure.
So 0 gives it to 1, $10. Person 1 gave person 0 $1. 1 gave person 2 5, right? Okay, so what's the next one? 2 gave person 0 5, right? So how? Let me see how. If you reduce that to one transaction, how does that happen, right? Okay, so person 1. Okay, 0 to 1, it's $10. 1 to 0 is $1. 1 to 2, $4. 2 to 0, it's 5. Therefore, person 1 only is. So person 0 gives person 1 $10, then person 1 gives person. So if 0, wait, so these are all debts, right? Let me see. Transactions. Okay, these are transactions in case. Turn the minimum number to settle the debt. Okay. So person. Okay, so when you say person gave person 1, person 0 gave person 1, is that settling the debt, or is that's something that they owe them?
Sorry, what?
So it says that person 0 gave person 1. Is that how much money they're paying back to that person?
Well, yeah, because no, it's not that they're paying back. It's like, let's suppose we're at dinner, right? And person 0 gives person 1 $10, saying, "Hey, yeah, here's money to pay your meal. Pay me back later." Like Venmo me the shit. That's basically, that means that at the very least, person 0 is owed $10 from someone.
Okay, so these are like person 0 is letting person 1 borrow $10 then, right?
In effect, right? But then if you start thinking about the problem and you realize, hey, wait a minute, like in the example I gave, right? The first example, it's like it doesn't really matter who is paying and who's paying back. What matters is that everybody is settled, right? So, for instance, if I loan out like $10 to the group, and then like to my friends, and then all my friends are like loaning shit to each other, then I just need to get $10 back somehow. I don't care if it's from Mike or whoever the fuck it is, you know. I think the example I gave just kind of shows that. So.
Okay, so let me start with this. Okay, so 0 gives to 1 $10, right? Then 2 gives back to 0 $5. So this guy gave $10 initially, and 2 gives $5 to person 0. 2 transactions are needed. One way to settle the debt is for person 1 to pay person 0 and 2 $5 each.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, so one way to settle the debt is for person 1 to pay person 0 and 2 $5 each. So, hold on, I don't think I'm understanding this. So, 2 transactions are needed. One way to settle the debt is person 1 pays person 0 and 2 $5 each.
Mm-hmm.
So, person 1 0 pays them $5 each. Okay, so 1, so they gave 10 to person 1 here. Give 10 to person 1. And then 2 gave 5.
What if I gave you people named like Alice, Bob, and Charlie?
Let's try that.
So if Alice gave Bob $10 and then Charlie gave Alice $5, does that help you visualize the problem a little bit better?
Yeah, let me see. So Alice, Bob, right? So, and this is 2. This is what it's called Charlie, right?
Yeah, sure, whatever. Yeah, I'm just saying this is one way to think about it.
Okay, so Alice gave Bob $10. Bob is owed $10. Charlie gave Bob $5.
Alice gave Bob $10. Why does Alice still owe Bob another 10? If I give you $10, do I still owe you another $10?
No.
You owe me $10, right?
Yeah. Okay, so let me see. Okay, so Alice gives Bob $10. Charlie gives Bob $5. One way to settle it is Bob pays a person Alice and wait, hold on. So it's hard to visualize some Alice, Bob, and Charlie, Bob 5. 2 transactions are needed. One way to settle the debt is person Bob. Bob pays Alice. Bob pays Charlie 5. Okay. Okay, so Bob gets 5 from Charlie here. Bob, I'm looking at the example here. Bob gets $5 from Charlie. So he only has to.
Wait, person 2. Okay, yeah. Person 0. Oh, this. By the way, you screwed this one up. This is person 0. Remember?
Oh shit.
Yeah. So be careful about your naming. Remember, this is the original prompt. So be very careful. Yeah. You. Okay.
Oh, fuck. Okay. And Charlie. This is Alice then, right? Okay. 2 transactions. Everyone is for person 1. Person 1 pays person 0, so Bob pays Alice $5, and 2, Bob pays Charlie $5. Okay, so Alice pays Bob $10. Okay, so Alice gave Bob $10. And then Charlie gave Alice $5. Okay. So Bob pays Alice $5 back. And then Bob pays Charlie $5.
Yeah, that's one way to do it.
So hold on. So trying to understand the relationship better. Alice, okay. Alice gave $10 to Bob. Charlie gave Alice $5. So what the fuck? Bob. So why would Bob have to pay Charlie in this case? That's what I'm trying to figure out now. Since Charlie never gave anything to Bob, or is Charlie $5? Oh fuck. Alice. Okay. So this example, not quite understanding it, right? Because okay. Alice gives Bob $10. Charlie gives Alice $5. But then Bob has to pay $5. I understand where that's coming from because she gave him $10. But then Bob pays Charlie $5. That's the part that I'm not understanding here.
Remember, we just want to settle the debts. We don't care who it's from. Like, if I loan money to... Like, if Charlie loans money to Alice, he doesn't care if it comes back from Alice. It can be from anyone, as long as he gets that $5 back. That's the rule here, right?
Okay. Okay, so if the goal is to settle the debts, Charlie already gave... Okay, so the goal is to settle the debts then. Charlie owes Bob $5. So...
Why does Charlie owe Bob $5?
Or no, sorry. Bob pays Charlie $5. Oh, shit. Okay, okay, so it doesn't matter who it comes from. Okay, so Alice, she gave out $10. Charlie gave out $5. Bob. Okay, so if this is the case, okay, so okay, so Alice gave Bob $10. Charlie gave Alice $5. Charlie's gonna give back the $5 to Alice. Charlie's gonna give back the $5 to Alice. Hmm. Bob pays Alice $5. Okay, so Alice gets Bob $10. Charlie gives Alice $5. So at the end, Bob pays.
Okay, let me try helping you. Let me help you again. Let me plan a story, right? Me, and Justin go to dinner, right? Or imagine some random fucking person named Justin, right? You loan Justin $10, right? And then I loan you $5, right? I come after you for the $5. Like, hey, dude, where the fuck's my $5? You say, hey, I'm waiting on $10 from Justin, so you get it from him. Now, do you understand where that comes from?
Okay, so I gave Justin $10.
And I gave
and
you
then
$5.
you gave me 5. Okay.
So
then
you say, hey, I loaned out $10, and you saying, well, you got $5 from me. You need another $5 to be whole, right? And I need my fucking $5 back. I don't care if I get it from you or Justin. I just need my fucking $5 back. Does that help you?
Yeah, that helps. Okay. Okay, so I gave Jay $10, and you gave me $5.
Yeah.
Okay.
You still need another 5.
Okay, so you gave me 5. So to settle, C and E need to get their money back. Okay. Okay, so to settle that, so now let's talk about who owes who, right? So
okay.
Jay
Again,
owes,
I don't care who it's from. I just need my fucking money back. I don't care if it comes from you or Justin. I just need my $5 back. And
okay.
And you, on the other hand, you loaned out the 10, right? But you got 5 from someone in the group. You just need another 5, and then you're like, okay, account balances are done.
Okay. Okay, so for this case, since no one let you borrow money, right? So since no one let you borrow money, then what would be the output in this case?
What do you mean?
So in this example here, right? Like this is what C gave to J $10,
right.
E gave to C $5,
right?
And this is who owes, right? So who owes who, right?
Well, again,
this is just
the thing is that I don't care who I get the money from, right? It just means one way to settle the debt is, yeah, you could pay back directly the person, right? That's one way to do it. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because if you look at the second example, it just only takes one transaction, even though you could just say, oh yeah, these are all the different debts that are owed to different people. At the end of the day, each person doesn't really care as long as they're made whole, right?
Okay.
That's the point I'm trying to press into your head. Get rid of the idea that, oh, I need to go after this specific person for this specific debt. Get rid of that notion.
Okay.
I don't care who it comes from. I just want to get paid back.
Okay, so if we don't care who owes who, right? So
I said that 3 times already.
Okay. So we don't care who owes who. So So one way to settle this is J pays C $5. J pays E. He pays E 5, right?
Sure. Yeah.
This is just to get my train of thought, right? My logic.
Okay, sure. That's exactly the example I just gave.
Okay. So then.
So what part do you not understand?
Okay, so then these 2 transactions, that's you can reduce this, right? That's like the minimum transactions you need for
minimum number of transactions. Yes.
Okay. So Okay, so now I'm thinking of an idea to explain before I start to do any pseudocode or any of that stuff. So who? It doesn't matter who owes who. You just want to. Okay. Okay. So fuck. Okay. Okay. So you have the debts, right? To settle, so you need their money back. Okay. So. Hmm. So C and J went to tenor. Okay. Okay. So yeah. So I'm thinking here is like, how are you gonna settle these debts, right? Without worrying who pays who. So so we know who lend money to who. Now we have to come up with a way. Now we have to come up with a way of how to pay them back, right?
Okay.
Um, so okay, so I have who owes who right here. But then how do you go to this step here? How do you go here, right? So I see. Yeah. So yeah, I'm just talking about this since I'm trying to figure out how to settle these debts, right? Because we don't care who pays who, right? Um, so, so J pays C $10, C pays E $5, but then you can reduce that to saying, let's see, yeah. Right now, what I'm struggling with is going from where I'm at here in my cursor, going from that step to the next one.
Okay.
So I'm thinking of some. This is where I'm stuck.
Okay. What's hard to figure out?
Yeah. So what's hard to figure out right now is I'm having a hard time thinking how can I figure out how to reduce not because you have you know who owes who, right? But then you have to take that a step further and then say how can you reduce these transactions and come up with a clever way, right? Because J owes C $10 and then C owes E $5. But then we came out with the conclusion that J pays C $5, J pays C $5. And then that's how everyone gets their money. Okay, so.
Okay, here's another example. I loan you $5, you loan me $5. Do I have to use 2 transactions to settle?
No, you don't need a transaction for that case. Okay. Okay. So. Okay, from that example, if you see that the counts are they balance out, then you can remove that line. Okay. Okay. if I and then it's just not clicking right now.
Okay.
So
Again, let's start with a very simple example. If I loan you $5 and you loan me $5, why is it that we don't need a transaction? Why do we not need any transactions?
That's because the balance is 0 between both users.
Okay. So let's take 3 users, like you, me, and Justin again. You loan Justin $5, Justin loans me $5, I loan you $5. How many transactions do we need?
Wait, so what was the example again? Sorry?
If I loan you $5, you loan Justin $5, and Justin loans me $5, how many transactions do we need to satisfy that?
Okay, so you loan me $5.
Yep.
Okay, so and then Justin.
Okay, let me write this down. Okay, Justin loans E5, right? E loans C5. C loans J5. How many transactions do we need?
Loans. 0.
Yeah, why?
That's because whoever owes like person A, person B, whatever they owe each other, it's 0. Because it balances out at the end, right?
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So is there an algorithmic way that you can use to determine that if the balances are off? So let's say we change this to, like, let's say $15.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so then that says if there's a balance between users, then that means that you have to make a transaction to pay them back.
Okay, but again, it's okay, fine. I'll let you run with this because I mean I've given you so many hints. I've basically done that problem for you in 28 minutes in. I'll give you 5 more minutes to see if you can get your footing off the ground.
Okay. Okay. So you have to go to 0. Account balance between users with 0. That means that you don't need a transaction for that. Okay. So it's 15, right? Okay, so that's $5, right? So how can we come up with a way of who owes who, right?
Okay.
So how this is to keep track of who owes who, right? And you're gonna basically see, okay, if person A does not owe person B anything, then you don't need that transaction. You're only gonna keep the transactions that have a positive number on them, because that indicates that they're owed money to the other person.
Okay.
Okay, so you know who loaned money to who. So then you say, this person owes this person this amount of dollars, right?
Okay.
And then, okay, so if we go off that, then you can have some sort of mapping that has who owes who, right?
Okay.
And that's going to have how much they owe. So to take it a step further, how are you going to run through these transactions and basically settle the debts, right? And remove the ones that don't matter. So, okay, suppose I have a mapping J is 15. JCP is
Okay, you're 30 minutes in.
Okay.
Do you feel like you're making any progress?
Not really.
Okay. I'm gonna stop the timer here. I want you to talk about what you did right, what you did wrong. How would you evaluate this if you had to? Yeah, if you had to.
Yeah, what I did wrong is yeah, I had a hard time coming up with examples to understand this problem much better. What else? Yeah, it was just hard to me to understand the idea behind this problem. What confused me was not understanding really the problem well. Because I know you gave me various hints saying that it doesn't matter who owes who how much money, right? Or who's gonna pay who.
Yeah.
You just want to settle the debt.
Right.
So that was hard for me to understand.
Well, let's dive into that because I literally said that 3 times, and it didn't click to the 3rd time, and then you still shut down. So let me ask you, why did you end up in a situation where the interviewer had to say that 3 times? Let's start there.
Yeah, I guess I just didn't understand the problem well.
No. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, why did the interviewer have to tell you 3 times? And if you didn't understand the problem, then what part did you not understand? And you better not fucking say it's because, why doesn't this person pay this person specifically back? Like, so I want to ask you, why did you not understand the problem? What part did you not understand?
I didn't understand how the users were settled debts. I know at the end I kind of I finally got the hint that if the account balances are 0 between them, then you don't have to output that. Yeah, that was my. That's what I didn't understand here.
I think you more or less didn't understand the problem because you didn't know what the solution was. That's what I'm hearing actually. That's a problem because I know what the solution is, therefore I understand the problem. That's the wrong way to think about it. You need to be able to understand the problem before you come up with a solution. No one invents a rocket before they understand rocket science. That's kind of not how it works, right? If you understand in theory how rockets work, then you try building one. So in other words, what I'm hearing today is that you don't know how to actually understand problems without stumbling into the solution and then saying, "Oh yeah, now that this idea works, I understand the problem." So it's fine to throw examples, but literally, I threw you some really, really simple examples, right? Of the whole, why don't you try to have just 2 people in the transaction who loans each other $5? Okay, that makes sense. Why does it have 3 people in the transaction? Each person gives each other $5. 0 transactions. Why is that? Because again, it goes back to the thing I just said. It doesn't matter who owes who money. It just matters that the person has their debt settled. And you understood that. So my question is, what was different about those from that to this problem, to what you did before?
Let's see.
I mean, I can tell you the answer, but I want you to think about the way you think.
Yeah.
Why was it that you understood what I said, but you couldn't come up with anything yourself?
Okay, yeah. Okay, so where I got stuck was okay, so where I got stuck is not thinking of an idea of how you would map who owes who to who. That's where I kind of fumbled there at the end.
No, you fucked up on something much more fundamental. You fucked up on not doing a simple example. And you talked way too much and did shit in your head again. I noticed that you did that a few times, where it's person 0, person 2, person 1, person 2, and you just kept stumbling with that idea, and just kept saying, I don't get it. Why is person 2, person 0, person 1? And I said, okay, why don't you try modeling it as a story? And the moment I model as a story, you kind of started to understand it, right?
Yeah.
And it's why don't we all go to dinner and we all owe each other money? And then I said, okay, it doesn't matter. And if you combine that with the idea, hey, wait a minute, it doesn't matter who owes who money, right? And then to reinforce it, you could have just come with a very simple example like what I just did. So not only did you do stuff in your head, you didn't try to basically draw it out of your head. And third, you didn't come with simple examples. Just because I gave you one example does not mean that's the impetus of how to solve the problem. You can always get simpler than this, right? If I made this a transaction $5 each, then you would have immediately understood 0 transactions are needed. And then from there on, you understand, oh, what happens if I change it from $10? Let me actually try figuring it out. So the two things you should take away from today, and I'll paste the timestamps here, and I think you should rewatch this and look at yourself, is that you need to be able to have a faster system for understanding problems. That's the first thing. So let me write down your prep doc. Because I noticed that is a very, very, that's something that you struggle with. One, understand problems faster. Don't do shit in your head. Draw it out. Draw it out. Do simple, dumb examples first. Don't get caught up on the examples given.
Okay.
Yeah. So in other words, if you just start out with a simple, oh yeah, well, let's start with one transaction between two people. That's the dumbest simple example that you can come up with. And you understand, oh, if person 0, if we have two people, person 0, person 1, person 0 gives person 1 $10, person 1 owes person 0 $10, right? So what happens if there's if they're even transactions, right? You understand that, oh, no transaction is needed. Okay, let's expand it out to 3 people. What happens if one person in the group owes another person in the group something? Like you have one transaction. Okay, what happens if you have 2 transactions? What happens if you have 3 transactions in the group where everyone owes each other the same money? You know, you can understand and build that problem out, and then all that's left is to figure out the fucking answer.
Yeah.
So in other words, today was just about trying to understand the problem, and you failed to understand the problem for 30 minutes. So that was a very, very bad thing, actually. Like, you lost the interviewer in the first 15 minutes because you were basically stuck in your own head. You had no idea how to simplify the problem or figure it out or figure out the understanding, and you basically made the interviewer repeat himself. And and the last 5 minutes was just me giving you simple, stupid examples, and then you finally understood the problem. So I would recommend you rewatch this replay and just kind of look at my notes on the side and then look at the way you talk. So, all right.
Okay.
With that, and then also I would recommend you solve this problem on your own and then do it for homework.
Sounds good.
Okay, next thing. So when it comes to the behavioral interview, basically you want to tell the story. You want to have different stories, different morals of what you hold dear as a developer, right, or as an engineer, as a professional. And the whole basic story is that the basic strategy is that you can take, I don't know, let's say 5, 7 different pivotal moments in your career. And I want you to take notes on this, by the way, because I'm going to be talking for a while. So I'll take notes in the prep doc, by the way, and I can correct them later. But it's important that you take these notes. So when it comes to behavioral interview, a lot of your career can be boiled down to basically 7 stories, and then 7 different. And from there on, you can actually massage each one of these stories into different morals, answer any different kind of question, right? So for instance, let's take the question of name a time when you had conflict, and name a time you had conflict and how you resolved it. That's one. And then name a time when you had to lead a group or you had to take on more responsibility that you weren't necessarily assigned at the beginning. Now, and technically, these could all be solved in the same exact story if you phrase it right. So, for instance, if you have a story about you being a technical lead for a project, where you had to plan, execute, and deploy a piece of code, that can lend itself to solving both these questions, because if you're a technical lead, you're going to have conflict with people about certain designs and whatnot. And if you lead a group, that's also, you're a technical lead, you're leading a group, obviously. That answers itself, right? And I find that with the more meaningful the experience, the easier it is for you to talk about it, and the more ground you cover and the more questions you cover. That's why I think the sweet spot's always five stories, but I try to do 7 just so that way, Amazon really loves grilling you with leadership principles and whatever. But the important part about each one of these stories is that you can massage it to not only answer the question, but also tie it to a moral that you believe in. Now, of course, you're gonna have different things that stand out in your mind, right? And based on those, you're gonna be able to say you're gonna be able to tie it back. So the one strategy I always like using whenever I tell a story, and I feel like I might be rambling, I would always bring back to the question, why am I telling you this? Because based on this, I believe in X, Y, Z, right? And if you do that, and you always tie it back to what the interviewer says. So it's like even though you might feel like a lot of these stories might be long-winded, the fact is that if you rehearse them well enough, you very rarely get long-winded. Of course, again, some of the details of the stories and incidents and the experiences can be massaged to the questions, more so than others. Like again, if you want to answer a question about conflict versus leading a group, you'll cater the story more towards that, and then be able to tie it back to a moral that you believe in, or at least if you don't believe in it,
Okay.
fake it for the fake the leadership principles and whatever. So let me give you let me give you an example. Let me pull up the leadership principles here for Amazon, and then let me just like try to cook up a story like really quickly.
Okay. I actually have the ones that they're gonna grill me on. Do you want me to share those with you?
You have a what? You have a what?
The recruiter sent me 8 that they were gonna ask me specifically on.
They actually sent you the questions ahead of time.
Yeah, well, not the questions, but like the leadership and what they would focus around.
Okay, yeah, sure. Send it to me because I know they have like Amazon has like 15 or whatever. Fuck.
Yeah.
I'm like, God damn, I can't remember 3 or 5 rules. How the hell do I remember 15?
Yeah.
Like I'm not kidding. My fucking memory is dog shit. So.
Where can I put in the prep doc? You want me to?
Yeah, you can put it in the prep doc. That's fine. Okay, deep dive, insist on having the highest standards. Backbone, disagree and commit, earn trust, customer obsession, ownership, deliver results. Okay, sure. Let's say, I'll pick one for me, actually. Pick one of these principles, and I'll just, like, come up with it in 30 seconds or some shit.
Let's see, customer obsession.
Okay, customer obsession. All right, cool. So let's say I pick, I'll pick a story that answers the conflict leads a group. Let me think. All right. Okay. Cool. I think I have one. So I was, and this is a real story. I'm going to talk about like my experiences at Apple. I'm going to try to refrain from talking about my experiences at Uber. So the story I want to do is the time I was responsible for leading the design and launch of the tablet support for Apple Music. At the time, this was one of the bigger projects that I was forced to actually lead a group for. I was working in pair with one other engineer, and so this is the first time I was actually acting as a technical lead for this. And so because of that, I was tasked with scoping, trying to figure out a lot of not just what the product design wanted, but also what made sense in the Android world. Because a lot of the times, whenever we want to make a equivalent feature to what is on iOS, we try to maintain some level of parity, but we also try to adhere to the Android material design in order to give the customer a unified experience on Android, because it would feel very, very odd when we would have some features that were iOS specific, designed for iOS, but then existed on the Android world. So, an example of this is like the idea of the hamburger menu. The hamburger menu was at the time was very ubiquitous on Android, but we decided to actually keep that, even though iOS decided to use the taskbar. So a lot of these little designs, really, we try to make sure and to negotiate with leadership to try and maintain not just an Apple feel, but we also try to be able to add the Android touch to it as well. And so being forced to actually constantly negotiate with leadership who are very, very headstrong when it comes to a unified Apple experience across all platforms, because that is the directive of a lot of these people at the higher up, because Apple was very, very big on it. What's called very big on image. Yet for us, architecturally, it would be a very, very big pain. And so having to constantly do this was definitely a lot of trouble, but we were able to resolve a lot of these issues simply by selling the leadership on the engineering effort it would take. Of course, as part of my role as a technical lead, I had to basically try and prototype a lot of these things that are essentially experimental, non out of the box for our Android experience. So, for instance, we have this two-column view for a lot of the playlists and albums on the Apple iPad, right? But a out of the box layout manager didn't exist for Apple Music or Android at all, and so I had to prototype this and spend a lot of efforts, basically spending about 3 weeks to show that, hey, the level of effort it requires to create a stable component for this is not worth the amount of time we're giving up. We're not burning a quarter just so that way we can satisfy a one of these screens. I said that we should actually defer this one specific screen, this one specific layout for later, and instead just stick with a enlarged version of the phone view, which is just one big single list. Of course, this took up a lot of real estate space, but I was able to sell it based on the fact that it was just not simply worth having the engineering effort go to waste just to maintain one screen for a unified experience across iPhones and Androids. Okay, that was a little bit long. I think I spent like probably 2 minutes, 3 minutes on this. And then so let me tie it back to a point. So the reason why I'm saying all this, and this is like, leading, not just leading a group, but I believe that in order to prevent a lot of burnout and a lot of, a lot of unnecessary pain, it's very important to be able to sell a tangible effort to non-engineering leadership, especially when these non-engineering leaderships have an engineering background. They are more sympathetic to these efforts and they're more sensitive to developer hours calculations than they are to product. So this is one way I was able to actually negotiate a different level of effort and different commitments. Okay, that was long, but you kind of understood the point, the background of the information, and I tied it back to a moral. Did anytime did you feel like I was rambling a little bit? I mean, I'm sure.
No.
Oh wow.
Everything. Oh, well, it was long. It was long because you did deep dive on this. So my question for that is like, how long should be spending on these stories? Because you can go on and on, right? Like
yes.
Talking about all the difficulties and whatnot. So how long do you suggest to spend on these ones?
Well, if you're rehearsing this, you should always have like you should have a 30-second one, like a elevator pitch version, and then a 2-minute version, and then in the past I've said 15 1-minute, and then 3-minute version. But I would say probably now like make a 30-second version, 2-minute version, and then a end long version where you can basically keep going on and on and on about like any number of details that you really wanted. And of course I cooked this one up on the fly, so I think I hit somewhere between the 3-minute and the long run version. But you understood the gist of it, and I think there's a lot of details in there that you were pretty interested in. And so like, I tied it back to customer session. I tied it back to conflict, and I led a group, right? I could even hit deep dive. I could even hit like any single one of these with that one story. And this is like me just coming up with off the top of my fucking head. So that's kind of the point here, is that I want you to be able to come up with like these stories that are multifaceted, that can actually be used in a bunch of different questions here. And obviously, if I wasn't doing interviews, I would have prepped this a little bit better. But this is just me coming up with 30 seconds off the top of my head.
Okay.
So I expect you to be able to do this a whole lot better than me, since you're the one practicing for this. So, but yeah, like again, I can always massage a story. I can always do X, Y, Z. But the question now becomes, what is the interviewer on the other side looking at, right? Like you tell this wonderful story, right, or whatever, right? They're going to compare it to their engineering competencies and see whether or not you match it. So let me bring that up here.
Okay.
Square engineering ladder. I think you might have seen this.
Share your screen, please.
Yeah. Let me bring that up. Okay, can you see this?
Cool. Okay, cool.
Okay, so this is a very basic engineering ladder. Of course, every single company has their own internal rubric, but this is basically the guidelines that you're gonna expect for any company. I think this is a pretty fair representation of the baseline level for a lot of these companies. So, for instance, let's say that you're aiming for L5, right? So you want to be able to manage a team because you have 4 or 5 reports. Oh, this is a manager. Hold up. You want the IC one. So independently responsible for entire life cycle of the project's features or engineering design and deployment. Did I hit that? Yeah, I probably did. Engineering design, yeah, and then negotiated with stakeholders and whatever. Okay, improved code structure and architecture. I didn't talk about that. Co-writes design documentation areas. I could probably have said, hey, yeah, I wrote a design doc for this, for whatever hell I did, right? Highly proficient in one more technical areas, yes. Ownership unknown design will work that enables the team to move faster. I think, okay, collaboration adjacent teams have wide scope. I would say that's a pretty wide scope if I'm starting to talk and negotiate with non-engineering stakeholders. Assist and teach other engineers. I didn't really talk about that, actually. I could have done that. The follow-up question to the for the interviewer would have been, hey, so what role did the person you had to lead take on? And like I said, oh yeah, once I scoped out the work I gave the scoped out work to them or whatnot. You know, like I could say, oh, he had to handle some screens or X Y Z or some shit like that. You know.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know. Anyway, so the point here is that participates in hiring process. Yeah, I did, but I can at least hit that. But I would say the biggest one would have been hitting the technical execution. I probably could have clarified some stuff on that, and then ownership, which via Shogun, via negotiating with stakeholders, right? So it's like being able to hit these levels. Now, of course, if I presented something, let's say I talked about, and you could also argue that that particular experience I just named was also IC4 as well. It could have also been argued that as well, but it just depends on like what details I go into and what things I say. Of course, like I'm going to try and tailor that story, the details of that story, to whatever engineering level I want to present.
Okay.
So in other words, if I present a story about a 3-month project versus a 1-month project, the 3-month project is going to most likely hit the IC5, the senior level stuff. And then the junior, and then if I said it was like a 1-month project, then the IC4 is going to be what you got going, right? And also the scope matters, right? If I say I'm leading a project that covers iOS, Android, and backend, that's going to be IC5. That's going to be senior level. But if I say, oh, I'm only managing the code for my area, and then I had a technical lead who was scoping out projects for iOS, Android, and backend, chances are that's going to land me in the IC4. That's going to land me in the level 4 category.
Okay, what about a collaboration with other teams? Is that a 4 or 5? What would you say there?
Well, it depends. To what extent are you collaborating with other teams?
Okay, like let's say let's say this is a just scenario, right? Like you're trying to implement something that their API doesn't have, their engineers are busy, and then you took it upon yourself to do that and submit the pull request.
Well, it depends. How much responsibility did you have in actually figuring out this API contract and whatnot? How'd you? Yeah, let me ask. That'd be the follow-up.
Let's say I like did my own research with minimal questions on the team. So it's basically myself that did most of the work.
Okay, then the next question I would ask is like, okay, what's the context of this project?
Okay.
Because like negotiating with an API contract and doing it yourself, that's probably hits 4 solidly. And the only reason I would say it's not 5 is because I don't know if how complex the project that was it was on. Because if it's like, let's say a stupid get, like opening up a get request or something like that, that's not very complicated. But if it's like opening up an API contract that has a lot of authentication and stuff involved in it, that might be senior level. So it just depends on how complex that particular workload is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Cool.
So that you see how basically you just start mapping it to like the engineering levels, and then it'll automatically feed itself, right? So there's a lot of points that you're trying to hit with your stories. Each one of these stories needs to be efficient at doing that.
Yes. Okay.
But in other words, that's why always helps to tell a very flexible story that can answer multiple questions, and that most importantly hits on some of these levels. That if you're going for IC5 or senior level engineer, hits these technical execution, is highly proficient in one or more technical areas. Make sure you explicitly show that, and make sure you avoid having it be too ambiguous with level 4.
Okay, I see. Okay.
And then the secret sauce is that if you're really good, and you're really really strong at what you do, you can sprinkle in some hints of level 6. But for the most part, stick with this one because we're already trying to aim for the moonshot here. So try to stick try to make sure at the very least you hit all these.
Okay.
And then maybe sprinkle in like 2 stuff from level 6 if you can. But really make sure that you get like level 5s in there.
Okay.
So
so coming up with the stories, I'll refer to this and sprinkle that data like you said. Okay.
Yep.
This is good to have though. So.
And be able to make sure that the way you talk about these things and what project you talk about really solidly fit within that,
Okay.
and make sure that the details of what you can talk about match that as well. Because it's gonna be weird when you talk about leading a project, but then you start talking about like refactoring code. And it's like, okay, why do you need to refactor code? How big is this blast radius? And you just say, oh, it's just a one independent module. And it's like, oh, that sounds like a level 4 work, man.
Yeah.
But if you say, oh, we need to refactor code as a prerequisite for a sweeping change of I don't know, switching switching from one CI/CD pipeline to another or something like that, and that you were a part of, then that's a different story.
Okay. So because some of that stuff you can delegate, right? Is that something they're looking for, or do they want you to be like using mostly I language? What would you say there?
What do you mean I language?
Like, oh, I did this, I did that, I did this, instead of saying, no, I had to offset this to a team member or something like that.
The thing is that people confuse delegation for leadership. That's my problem with it. I think it's if it needs to be delegated because you need to handle something more complicated that you're more proficient at, that's a plus. If you're delegating for the sake of delegation because you need to do something of other equal importance, that doesn't say it. That's a no signal from me.
Okay.
So that's the way I read it. So for instance, if I'm like delegating refactoring one module just so that I can clean up the code base of another module or whatever, then that's a fake signal, right? Another fake signal. I call it fake signals because it's like people think, oh, I'm delegating, whatever. It's like, no, you're just like sharing the equal level of complexity and work. Another way is just like, oh yeah, I needed to delegate work in order to negotiate and scope out work with another area of the project. Now that can be or that can't be fake depending, because now I'm asking how complex is the scoping for this. So it's just like if it's like, oh, I need to define an API contract for another team. Okay, well that may or may not be level 4, level 5. It's just, to me, I've seen a lot of those ones where people just delegate and then give something, and then take on something of equal complexity. I think that's a part I think a lot of people actually screw up on. Even interviewers screw up on this a lot.
Okay.
And I think they end up like they take the what's it called, the delegation at face value. I think that's a very very big mistake that a lot of interviewers are making. But that's my personal opinion. That doesn't mean that you can't take advantage of it, but it's like I would just try to stay honest, and just try to be, try not to game it.
Okay. So another question there is like, okay, you did hit good points here, but what are some things that you like avoid talking about? Like, is there like things that like aren't worth it when candidates talk about? What are your thoughts there? Like things to avoid, basically.
Things to avoid. I have a few ways to say it, but I think Charlie Munger says it best. It's avoid anything that's stupid, evil, and makes you look bad in comparison to someone else.
Okay.
So anything stupid, evil, or makes you look bad in comparison to something else. Yeah, okay. I'm actually gonna write that for you because it's so good.
Okay.
And makes you look bad in comparison to us.
Who says don't be evil? Is it Google or don't be? What did
they took that out actually a while ago? Don't be evil.
Yeah.
But it's like I will send you this clip because I fucking love it. I was actually at the Berkshire Hathaway meeting when he said it, and it was so goddamn funny in the crowd when he said it, and it was about Bitcoin. So
nice.
All right, and anyway, I know I'm gonna get killed in the fucking crowd for all the Bitcoin lovers, but yeah, it's a really really good litmus test. So like if you take like for instance a time when you had to, what's called it's like, oh, you argued with someone and then you settle it with your manager. That is not necessarily bad, but it does make you look bad in comparison to someone else who could have solved it without the manager.
Yeah.
That doesn't. Yeah. Of course, it does mean there's a fine line. There's some nuance to it as well, right? So, for instance, if it's like super super complex, and that there's no clear answer, and either one of you could have been right, and then you have the manager make a tiebreaker, not as hey, I think I think this guy's right, but I also think I'm right. We need a tiebreaker. That makes you look good because it makes you look fair. You give another person a try, and it makes you, it shows that you're capable of being rational, and that you really understood like the other person. That makes you, that's good. And it's not like
Mm-hmm.
stupid either. But if you say, "Oh, I did it just to settle a fight," then that's pretty. It's not stupid necessarily, but it does make you look bad in someone, just compared to someone who's like
It's,
trying to be cordial and professional.
yeah, a little mature there. So yeah,
Right, exactly. So it's the context that
yeah,
matters. But if you can pass that, if you can avoid if you can avoid as much of these as you can, stupid, evil, and makes you look bad, then I think it's a pretty good test.
yeah. Okay, okay, okay. Cool.
So I know I talked a lot, but I want to spend the last 5 minutes trying to do it. Let's do a one story together and see if we can massage it. So I want you
Okay,
to like
okay,
kind of like take your resume, try to type, look at it, pick a story, and just kind of like type it out or talk about it.
okay.
It's like if you can copy paste it and you think it does a well enough job at um, covering the story that you want, then feel free to paste it. Otherwise, just feel free to try chatting it out.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so I wrote some of the stuff down earlier. Let me pull that out. Yeah, yeah. I guess these are.
All right.
Yeah, I should have made these more general because they're specifically tied to the company.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I can read this one out. I'll just change some text as I go. Okay, so yeah, this is. Do you want me to come up with the story or read it how it says on the?
Come up with a story. Like try the 30-second version. Think about how you want to present it, and I'll time you on that. But it's important that you're like really succinct on it, and that you at least hit the main points.
Mhm. Okay, so let me focus on one of these principles here. Let's see. Okay, let's try ownership. Yeah, let's try the ownership one here.
Okay.
Let's see. Okay, so I shouldn't have read this. Okay, okay, so talking about ownership. So I can talk about a time in my company where we were on a time crunch and code freeze was approaching. We had just launched our product. Um, However, we were dependent on gating a certain data set to send out all our email campaigns.
Mm-hmm.
So a quick background on what we did. We used email 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 tool similar to Mailchimp to send out campaign emails for
Okay.
various customers.
Okay.
So the end goal was to bring in large data sets up to 100 million users into our database. The big constraint there was where our where our server was running. We did not have access to all these databases. What what I had to do was I had to come up with a proxy API server that would ping that would grab that data. It would massage it in certain ways, and then it would send it over to us via SCP.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there.
Mm-hmm.
Is it important that I know these technical details?
No, probably not.
Okay, like I said, focus on the what is the most important thing here. I want the morals of like what you believe in as an engineer and how that and I want you to think about how that ties into showing the level that you want to be seen at. I really want you to focus on like what's the important part of this story and get there as fast as possible.
Okay. Okay, so
All right, no, really think about it. I'm going to time you on this.
Okay, so do you want me to start over? Or
yep, start over. Tell me when you're ready.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so
It's okay. Take as much time as you need.
okay.
If I'll play the Charlie Munger video for the audience if you need more time.
Okay, no, let me try. Let me
Okay.
try this. So this is relating to ownership. So I guess the interviewer can say, okay, can you talk about a time when you had to take certain ownership in a project?
Sure.
How did that
let me
go?
know when you're ready to start. Just let me know when you're ready to say the answer. Are you ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
Go.
Okay, so we had joined the company, and about 6 months in, we had launched our product. But the big constraint was that we needed a big data set to facilitate our product, which was to send a bunch of emails to various users and the various customers of the company. So the big blocker was we didn't have access to all these.
Stop. You're 30 seconds in already. And all you told me was, I joined the company at 6 months, I need a big data set. That could have been said in the first 7 to 10 seconds. Like I said, really think about it. You rehearse it a few times if you have to, and just try to figure out how you're going to say it in a very succinct
way.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so how can I condense this? So
again, start from backwards. Like start from the conclusion. What is the moral you want to imprint, and build your story around that. And pick out the details that are important. It's like an invert. It's the invert strategy here.
Okay. So the moral I want to get across is that I took ownership on this project.
Okay.
Okay,
I see where the problem is. So it's not that the question is not the end in and of itself. Though you want to also go above that. So you can say ownership, but then you also want to say like, what about ownership do you believe in?
Okay.
So if I had to say, let's take my example for instance. Like I was like, oh, I showed not only did I resolve conflict, how I resolved conflict. I believe that selling people on the engineering effort, especially when they are privy to what engineering effort entails and making those trade-offs very visible, is a great way to be able to resolve conflict with non-technical people. And you understood that from the story that I presented. And that's like, not only did I say, oh yeah, I managed conflict, it's like, hey, I'm also showing, hey, this is like one strategy I used in order to deal with it. So I want you to really think about that.
Okay. Okay, so we were approaching code freeze, which is a time when we can't.
Yeah, we know what code freeze is.
Okay, yeah. Okay, let me start again.
Okay.
So my team was faced with this code freeze, and let me try again. Okay, we had just launched our product, and we were nearing code freeze. There were several external dependencies that we still had to incorporate into our system to fully function properly. Otherwise, we would be stuck with a product. Otherwise we would be stuck with the product and not use it for an entire holiday season. Holiday season, which is our most important time of the year. So what I did was I took it upon myself to learn how to bring in all that external data. I took it upon myself to learn how to bring in this external data into our server, which did not have access to that certain data set. So we had to circumvent that.
You had the
I
first
fucked it up
part.
there.
You were doing well in the first 15 seconds. You just collapsed after that.
Yeah, because I started talking about technology. And,
No. Okay,
yeah,
here,
that
let me
fucked
do this. I'll craft it for you, and I can show you how I'm thinking. So why don't you tell me the full story, and then try as best as you can, and I'll craft it for you for 30 seconds, and then you can see like how I'm thinking about it. Go ahead. Go.
Okay. Yeah. So we were nearing code freeze.
Okay.
And we had a product that had just launched.
Mhm.
Our most important time of the year was the holidays, so it was important for us to have a certain data sets that existed in different data centers.
Uh-huh.
Where our product resided, we did not have access to that data.
Mhm.
So I had to build a certain proxy machine to talk to the data sets and bring that over to our site. So we're talking about hundreds of millions of data that had to come in. Oh, crap.
No, just keep saying it. I'll craft it for you.
Okay, yeah.
Keep
So
going.
we had to bring in all these data sets into our site so we can schedule our certain. So we could schedule campaigns, email campaigns, and send it out to customers. So the big hurdle was that we didn't have access to that data set.
Which data set are you talking about?
This was a data that existed in HDFS Hadoop.
No. Is this like customer email?
Yeah. Customer data, yeah, like emails and
so user data,
browsing history.
And you need to do that in order to launch your advertising campaigns. Okay.
Correct.
Okay, and then and you needed to be able to send the email campaigns from different servers.
No. That we just needed the data to get our product up and running, right? I guess I didn't describe this, but the product was something similar to Mailchimp.
Okay, got it.
And we just needed to target the various data sets. And we didn't have that, which is one of the most important parts of the system.
Okay, so then what do you do?
What I did was I created a certain APIs that lived where that data existed, and then I with a small proxy server API, I created various commands that would ping Hadoop, and it would dump files. And after the files were dumped, they would be SCP'd to our server.
So essentially, you built a scraper.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Okay, and then how long did this project take, and how many weeks before the deadline did this occur?
This was about 2 months. 2 months before the deadline.
Okay, so and you had a product that you said was ready to launch, but you didn't actually have you didn't have the production data. Okay.
Correct,
so
yeah.
Let me see if I can do this. Okay. Hold up. Okay, I'm going to time myself. Ready, set, go. So I was responsible for a MailChimp-like product that would mass email people for campaigns and advertisements. And this was a 2-month-long project. However, the problem was that at the last minute, we did not have access to the production data. So I took it upon myself in order to scrape our production data and replicate the data on another server, so that way our product could actually work in time for the holiday season. That was 30 seconds.
Oh, awesome.
Okay, and then obviously, and so the point here is like, oh yeah, I took it upon myself to actually meet a critical deadline. That would be the moral here.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the way I would probably massage it. Of course, I think it could be done a lot better, but this is like literally me doing it off the top of my fucking head.
Okay.
And like, so it's not bad. Like, it's probably better than what you came up with. But I actually did the 30-second thing. So obviously, you go into a 2-3 minute thing. But I'm gonna tell you straight up, the Hadoop or whatever thing that you talked about is gonna be a follow-up question. It's not the main thing. Because I don't care if you do it in Hadoop. I don't care if you do it in Apache Spark. I don't care if you do it in dog poop fucking database.
Yeah.
I don't care. Well, it's like,
okay.
I don't care if you wrote the script in Python. I don't care if you wrote it in Ruby. It is like, or Java or whatever. That's not what's important. What's important is the project itself and the engineering effort.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did catch myself trying to talk about technology, but that's not good. I was kind of missing the point there.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah,
Because every single company has like technology stack and whatever. I don't care,
yeah.
and most people don't care. Like again,
Yeah,
if you've
yeah.
done it in one XYZ technology stacks, because eventually at some point it just ends up boiling down to be pretty much the same ideas underneath. It's just like the way they do it is a little differently. But
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, you want to know, you want to impress upon the interviewer that you had a very strong impact, and that you took on a good amount of responsibility, and that if the interviewer starts pressing you for those details, you can answer them in kind. So it's good that you know the details. It's just not
Okay.
what you should lead off with.
Okay. Okay.
Right. So in other words, be succinct, focus on what matters, and make sure that you're hitting your marks. That's it. And I mean, I just kind of did that off the top of my head, right? I mean, then again, I have like a lot of practice with this, trying to
Yeah,
ad
yeah,
lib some stuff. But for the most part, I can generally tell what is important and what is not important. And then the details is like I can probably fill in the rest later. But
yeah.
if you're just meeting someone like on an elevator pitch and you just want to you want to impress them, that's 30 seconds.
Okay. What's your whole thought on this whole star approach? It's like situation. Talk about the situation, the action you did, the results.
Yeah, I mean that's fine.
Should I approach these problems in that format
I
as
prefer.
well?
I mean, there's going to be some of that structure if you describe it correctly, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
in your resume, you're going to do that as your star or whatever. But I hate trying to be a stickler for the for frameworks like that, because if you tell the
Okay.
story
Okay.
right, it will fill it in itself, right? So if you take back the
Okay. Yeah.
story I
Yeah.
said, the situation was I was a technical lead responsible for um, what's it called? The tablet development for Apple Music, right? And then what action did I take? Oh, we were asked to design some very specific shit for Android that was very very technically complicated. And then what did I do? I negotiated with the non-technical people, stakeholders, in order to try and reduce the amount of work so that we would not have a lot of engineering hours wasted to one stupid little screen compared to the rest of the effort. And then the result was that, yeah, we were able to reduce the amount of work we had to do. And I was able to scope that out. I don't
Okay.
think of it as star format at all. I just think about trying to give enough context
Mm-hmm.
as to
Mm-hmm.
what's important, what is not. What would make the experience understandable, not just in terms of a story, but
Yeah.
why
Yeah.
it's significant. You just think about just that, the star format just fills in itself, and it feels a whole
Yeah.
lot
Yeah.
more natural as a story.
Yeah.
I really don't. I would say structures are good as like a hey, it's like a measurement stick, and just make sure that you're kind of on track. Like hey, did I hit all my marks? But I hate it as a guiding principle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Again,
Okay.
if you're
Okay.
doing it right, the star format fills in itself. All these different structures fill in themselves, and a part of that is going to be knowing how to tell good stories and being succinct with your words as well.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, actually, you know what? How about this? For the last few minutes, I'm going to actually play the video for you, and you can kind of see how Charlie Munger talks, and he very very succinctly talks. Yeah, the man is like the man used to be a lawyer to be fair, so you know. Let me bring that up. So he knows how to present himself, but it's a really really important skill I think a lot of developers should have, because part of what you do as a developer is going to be like selling your work to people, right? And in order to do that, you need to be able to communicate very efficiently and very well.
Mm-hmm.
So
Exactly.
let's see.
Yeah.
Okay, let me share my screen. Let me stop share. Let me share new. Where did that? Okay, there we go. Cool, cool, cool. And then let me make sure I can get the right window here. Damn it. Hold up. Okay. Can you see this?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, so let me skip to the part where Charlie starts talking. So it's a.
I have a slightly different way of looking at it.
I'll sell you some then.
Well, in my life, I try and avoid things that are stupid and evil and make me look bad in comparison with somebody else. And Bitcoin does all three. and the first place, it's stupid because it's very likely to go to zero. The second place is evil because it undermines the Federal Reserve System and the national currency system, which we desperately need to maintain its integrity and government control and so on. And third, it makes us look foolish compared to the communist leader in China. He was smart enough to ban Bitcoin in China. And with all of our presumed advantages of civilization, we are a lot dumber than the communist leader in China.
Yeah.
Okay. He only spoke for a minute, but you understood exactly what he was talking about. Of course, if you're talking a little bit faster, you can get it down to 45 seconds. But notice how succinct that was.
Oh, yeah.
So I definitely like using Charlie Munger as a, not just as like an inspiration for like knowledge and whatever, but also like the way he talks. Then again, he's like 95 and has a lot of talking experience. I think him, Lee Kuan Yew, and then maybe, I hate to say it, but like Kanye again, like the way, I wouldn't say don't talk the way Kanye does, it's fucking crazy, but the way he presents himself is actually very much, it's very good actually. For what people say, I still think the way Kanye gives interviews is actually quite good. I think like just, if you observe the way that Charlie talks, I think you can learn a lot from that. So, and being able to do that, what he just did in 1 minute, keep in mind like Warren Buffett also like came in and interrupted a little bit, and then there's like a little bit of applause. But yeah, if you can talk like this, it's actually very, very good. And it actually helps people understand what the heck you're talking about without any of the fluff. So, all right, with that, we're out of time. Hopefully that gives you some inspiration.
Cool.
All right. Any final questions?
Yeah, man. I'm gonna practice more on this example stuff because that's really bad. But yeah, I'm gonna look at this replay and basically drill down those mistakes.
Yeah. And also, it's about not just the example stuff, it's about simplifying the problem and making sure you understand things from a very, very simple perspective and just not getting hung up in your own head. If you just drew, I guarantee you, if you drew this out with you drew the problem out with stick figures and you just thought about very, very simple, dumb examples that were like brain dead, because those are essentially your base cases, right? So as long as if you can get down to your base cases and very simple examples, you will understand the problem. And if you can't understand the basic example, then chances are something really, really fucked up. Either your example's not simple enough, or the interviewer fucked up at explaining. And based on what I just saw, 99% of the time, you're just not coming up with a very simple, stupid example.
Yeah, that's what happened. Okay. Yeah. Sounds
all right. Sounds good. So work on this. Come up with the 7 stories next time I see you on Thursday, and try to at least try to solve the hard problem that I just gave you. So.
Yeah, for sure. Okay.
All right, cool.
And do you need a replay for next Thursday?
I would rather you come with the stories.
The stories? Okay, sounds good. Sounds good.
And then do the problem. I wouldn't mind you recording yourself doing the hard problem and trying to figure out the answer. That's not. That's fine.
Okay, I'll record that. Okay. Awesome. Thanks, man.
All right. Talk to you later. Bye. All right. LMFAO Kanye. Dude, I don't know what like people's problem with Kanye is. I mean, I know what the people's problem with Kanye is, but hold up. I mean, you don't have the answer, Sway. I think is an outlier. Hold up. Let's look at the Zane Lowe interview with Kanye. I fucking love this one actually. The one where he says like, I like some of the Gaga songs. What the fuck does he know about cameras? Yeah, I like that. He makes good points. As much as I love to admit it, I think there are some things that he does say that are good. So let me actually go to this one. I think this one's
agency. Design the entire thing, put editors in it, blah, blah, blah. People give a standing ovation. I do an interview in New York Times the next year to say, hey, I did this and I want to let you know I did it. Right? Yep. And then it doesn't get mentioned in the interview. And a week later, they do an interview with George Lucas and Steven Spielberg, and they're talking about what the next frontier of theater will be and how it'll be higher priced tickets and it will be something that's surrounding you and blah, 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 but maybe it's in the goggles. I said, wait a second. I just only did the interview to tell people that I invented it. I made it. Like I remember when I was dropping William Morris, right? And then Sarah Newkirk at that time said, before you drop them, go meet with Ari Emanuel. And I sat with him and said, Ari, I'm an inventor. And he goes on to tell me about the way it works. And what he said is, you are a celebrity. So basically what's gonna happen is, there's product here. And this is where you end up, right here. If you can communicate this product, you can make money off the product. Because look at Gaga. She's the creative director of Polaroid. I like some of the Gaga songs. What the fuck does she know about cameras?
Okay. honestly, like for even though like the beginning of it was a little bit off the wall, like randomish, you understand like some of the points he's actually making, and I think they're legit. So that's my take on it. I think that if you're looking for inspiration on how to tell a story, I think that Kanye does. I think Kanye does it the best, or in a way that's very simplistic and that easy to understand, and entertaining, and doesn't bore the audience to sleep. Come on, man! Don't tell me none of y'all in the audience didn't turn away for a second. Like you guys, like I just kept watching. Like you were like, what the hell is this guy saying? And then, but you still paid attention. You know, he's like talking about these different people, but he built up to a point right there, right? You kind of understand like where he's coming from, or maybe I'm just crazy, you know? Maybe I understand Kanye, and maybe that's like a sign that I need to get like professional help or something. I don't know, man. But anyway, that's basically what I would recommend people like if you're looking to improve your communication skills. Look to tell an entertaining story as simply as possible and make your points as simply as possible, because that's ultimately what the interview is, right? The behavioral interview is the story of you, and the points you want to make about yourself. So anyway, any final questions from the crowd? All right, going once, going twice. I guess that's it. All right, thank you everyone for joining me. We will be back here Thursday, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time with C. Hopefully he makes some progress. And it'll be the night before his Amazon interview, so we'll be able to square away some of the behavioral stuff. So thank you all for joining me. Hope you all enjoyed that. And if you need coaching, link in the description below at echantech.com. Join me in my Discord. I'm very active there. Otherwise, have a good night, and I will see y'all later.